All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this February 28th meeting of the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. My name is Tony Emerson. I represent District 4 and have the honor of chairing this committee. If the other members would please introduce themselves.
I'm Michelle Hofer, and I represent District Number 9.
Neil Dobler, District 7.
All right, good morning, Deputy Mayor. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our January 17th meeting. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, none opposed. That passes 3-0. Okay, the next item is item 3, amendment to the CIP for the 17th Street project. City Manager?
Thank you, Chair. Braxton, you want to take this one?
Yep, thank you. So back in 2016, for the purpose of creating an interlocal agreement, a project budget was established for 17th Street. That was $14,600,000. In the intervening 7 years since then, we have seen incredible amount of inflation, particularly in the last 2 years. But that is requiring us to do an amendment to the project budget to get it to the point where we actually have sufficient funding to be able to construct this. Just on the street side alone, we basically need an additional $10 million to take us to $24,850,000 for total project costs to be able to afford to do this project, which is 2.7 miles of 3-lane arterial. In addition, to be completely transparent in terms of the costs, this project is also requiring the replacement of a tremendous amount of storm, water, and sanitary to the tune of about $7.6 million for water and sanitary. So when you add that in, total project costs for 17th Street is going from $14.6 million to $32.5 million, or $32.48 million. This is attributable to inflationary. We've not changed the scope on this. The memo that I've put out here lays out the cost per lane mile for the street work, which is basically right at 1.3. You add in the storm sewer, it takes it up to about 1.6 per lane mile. And then you put in the complete street elements, which were required by a resolution adopted back in 2009. It takes us to about $2 million a lane mile. And so our request would be for the governing body to approve the resolution increasing the project budget to get us to a point where we have sufficient funds to be able to do this project. And with that, I will gladly stand for any questions on the 17th Street.
Thank you, Mr. Copley. Any questions? Go ahead.
I have one. Braxton, are we still going to do this all in one bid for the 3 years?
That would be my recommendation. We are putting together some numbers for the city manager in terms of what the cost savings would be, but I believe that the cost savings are substantial, in excess of $1 million, to be able to do it all at one time with a 3-year project, as opposed to having to pay additional costs for design and remobilization to break this into 3 separate projects.
So Councilwoman might add into that. There is a new wrinkle that could cause us a hang-up. Senate Bill 248, which has made it through the Kansas Senate and is now moving over to the House, would be an elimination of sales tax collected on food. The impact to the half-cent sales tax for both the county side as well as street side and general fund is absolutely enormous. And so while we are certainly recommending the passage of this budget request, there is the caveat that should 248 actually make it through the governor's desk, we would have to stop because we would not be able to afford it.
Chair, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, was that 1 second, Deputy Mayor?
Go
Is that
ahead.
oh, Deputy Mayor? Go ahead.
Thanks. So remind me, this is funded by the citywide half-cent sales tax?
No, sir. This project is funded by the countywide half-cent sales tax. Given the cost of the project and the timing of the collection of the countywide half-cent sales tax, we do have $450,000 of federal fund exchange that is going to help fund this project. So that would be on the street side, countywide half-cent sales tax. The utilities portion of it would be utility revenue bonds. And then I'll let the finance department and city manager talk about the changes to the pilots to reduce the impact on the utility rate holders.
Again, you said this was 2 miles?
It is a total of 2.7 miles, which equates to 8.1 lane miles.
For a three-lane facility, correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, when do we get to the point where we can't afford to do these projects? This is $2,300 a linear foot. That is, that's crazy. I mean, when do we get to the point where we just simply can't spend all our money on a couple of miles worth of a street? I guess that's a rhetorical question. Probably the bigger question is, has anybody taken a look at the half-cent countywide sales tax infrastructure portion to see how projects lay out in the future? I mean, if we're spending, are we spending all our money now for the next 3 projects on this one?
Deputy Mayor, we have done the analysis. Freddie's team has looked at it. Projects that are in progress right now, we believe that we can fund, assuming that this Senate bill does not pass.
Right.
I think, Josh, there were some other items on the list that where'd you go? Weren't there a couple that we were questioning?
Yeah, we pushed a couple of them back.
Yeah, there's a couple that we have pushed back, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. No other questions, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Councilwoman Hofer.
Do we have any other major projects like this going on now besides 12th Street that it won't affect that one as much, but that will be going out to bid? Or is this the main one?
This is the major project that we're planning for the next 3 years. Next year, we're planning on getting started on the initial concept design for the Huntoon project. And then that Huntoon project is Huntoon, so basically parallels 12th Street. And again, that would be next year concept design to start getting some public involvement, then moving into design, moving into utility relocation to be able to phase that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I guess my feelings are similar to Deputy Mayor Dobler. Yeah, at some point, we just can't afford to do these projects if this keeps going on. My God, this is just a huge amount of money to spend in one little stretch of road. I guess my question would be, I know we do this complete streets thing because I guess that's a policy we established some time ago. Given costs and everything now, at what point might we start maybe revisiting whether we need to do complete streets every project like this, every reconstruction project?
So the current resolution was passed by the governing body back in 2009. And so this governing body absolutely has the ability to reevaluate that determination in terms of creating those corridors into complete streets. And certainly there are arguments that you can make both sides in terms of reduction of cost, but then there are arguments that you can make in terms of promoting safety and promoting a complete street in terms of allowing for pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular, and transit.
Yeah, and I guess to be clear, I'm all for all those those niceties or those improvements, those embellishments. But I guess what I hear from people is they want smooth roads to go on first and foremost, and then only once that's done do they really want, a lot of the added things. So I know that's not, you guys are just following a policy there, but I guess maybe it's also a rhetorical question that maybe the time's come to revisit that, because like the deputy mayor said, I'm worried at some point we can't afford to do the named projects in the county half-wide if this keeps going on like this. So, Councilwoman?
Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a process when things start, projects like this start, I'm going to say, getting out of control. That doesn't really sound right, and certainly not aimed at designers or city staff or anything else. Just the whole concept of a more than doubling the project budget in a couple of years. And that's, taking a hard look at everything that's going into the project, value engineering, whatever you want to call it. And I think it wraps into that. Can we really afford complete streets? Is there something different we can do with the utilities or stormwater or something to bring this cost down? Because it's a little bit stunning, frankly, to think we're going to spend $32 million on less than 3 miles of 3-lane street. I'm not going to support this because I think it's time to go back and take a look at it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Chair,
City Manager.
I'd like to add some context to Councilwoman Hofer's question as far as other projects. We do have, as part of our agreement with the zoo, the countywide sales tax is slated for about $4.1 million of zoo projects. And that's been part of a commitment that's already been made by the governing body. That's over, I think, a 5-year time period, but that is on the books right now and underway.
City Manager, I guess, are you suggesting that we may not need to pay for that now? Is that?
No, the question I thought I heard was, were there other projects underway? And streetwise, we've answered it, but
Okay.
I also wanted to throw in the context of, we do have some obligations to the zoo.
Okay, thank you. I hate to do this to you guys because I know how much blood, sweat, and tears have went into this, but I'm with the deputy mayor. At this point, I also can't support this increase. And I guess I don't know where we go. I'm open for any thoughts.
Braxton, when this goes out for bids, is it possible? I don't know how it's set up. Are there any, the only words coming to mind is optional. I've looked at bids, add alternates. Are there any at this time where I hate doing that, absolutely hate doing it, because I know that how they're figured. But something like the complete street items, and I'm not sure it'd save us any money, but I don't even know when this goes out for bids, if it was approved. Is it in the next month?
If it were approved, we would try to get it on the street within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
We're a week out from getting final plans. The consultant has been holding off until we have this discussion to see if A, we're going to have sufficient funding, and B, whether it was going to be approved to do the 3-year project or to just do, say, phase 1. So at this tick of the clock, without having the amendment to the project budget, we don't have the authority to put it out on the street. So we don't have the flexibility of doing bid alternates, right? One option would be we come back to you with, we take a look at value engineering and take a look at amendment to the Complete Streets policy to provide the governing body with discretion, and come back to you with, as Deputy Mayor mentioned, take a look at it for value engineering. Obviously, that's going to delay in terms of when we'd be able to start. I don't think it would be realistic to say we could start in 2017, especially given the fact that if we're doing water line work, you have 6 to 8 months of long lead time for valves, fittings, and hydrants.
I guess on that, Mr. Copley, does the water line through here need replaced anyway, or is it more of a, hey, if we're going to be in there doing this, let's put a new water line in while is there a need for a new water line in this?
I will defer to the utilities department on that, but my recollection is there are sections of it that have a very high break rating in terms of fracta, and it would be remiss, in my opinion, to put a $24 million road on top of a old cast iron water main that has high break history.
I don't know what to add to that. I mean, again, just good general scope. If you look, the storm improvements, I guess to come back to your overall questions, would it be helpful to you to have a more in-depth discussion about what elements are happening with that's associated with the project?
Well, sure, but I think you guys have your hands full. You're doing about 28 things right now already, aren't you? Yes, obviously more information is always better, but for instance, I wonder why couldn't the water line, if it needs replaced, why couldn't it be done right now ahead of the street project? I'll tell you, water lines are schedule killers on these street projects.
Do you want to talk about
See,
how?
the alignment of the water line, my recollection is it's under the outside eastbound lane because of all of the other utility conflicts that you have. And so the best place to put it so that you reduce the other conflicts was outside eastbound lane, which means that it really needs to be a phased project where you go in and you close a section of the road, you get the water line down, you build the new street. It would be terribly inefficient to go in and put the water line in, put a temporary surface in, and then remove all of that to be able to catch up with the road work over the next couple of years and the next couple of phases.
Yeah, the utility conflicts over here are just enormous. There's a lot going on in this area. I don't know, we originally have 2 different budgets, right? Braxton's budget for those street improvements and then the utilities budget. And this is an effort to kind of give you guys an oversight as to what that looks like in totality. Talking to Braxton's point about combining this effort, I just don't know how much time you guys want to get into today, diving into those details. It might be more prudent for us to just be able to show you those so you can wrap your head around them.
Yeah, I'm in no hurry, to do that. If a week or 2 would help you get stuff together, that's great with me. I know we're up against a clock here too, as far as if you want to get some of this stuff done this year.
Chair, I think it's probably more of a question of, do we want to proceed with phase 1 and stop? Or do we want to postpone the entire project? I think it is our recommendation that the utilities work is done at the same time so that we don't cause future issues and that we are addressing a significant issue underground. But right now, I think we've got to make a decision where to go.
I don't know what phase 1 is. I
I'm
guess.
sorry.
That goes from 470, from I-470 bridge to Fairlawn Road.
It was broken into 3 phases, basically, like Councilman said, 470 to Fairlawn, Fairlawn to Gage, and then Gage to McVicker in 3 different years.
And do we know, what the estimate is for that
It's
one?
approximately $8 million for phase one.
I didn't hear that, Braxton. What was that?
It's approximately $8 million for phase one.
Braxton, is that inclusive of utilities or separate, do you know?
That would be inclusive of the water and sanitary work within the project limits.
Chair, if I might,
Sure, go ahead, Deputy.
I think we need to step back at least a week and to take just a little bit of time and look back. Is there anything, whether it's complete streets, anything on the utility side that can be pulled out of this project to make it doable? Because it is not doable at this point. I understand we need to get something out, phase one, whatever, but if we're doing phase one at this terrifically inflated price, then are we really doing our job at that point, or do we need to step back and rethink this whole thing? I would be happy to, attend a reconvened infrastructure committee meeting in a week, if that's what it takes, just to talk about this one item. But I think we need to do that.
May I make the recommendation that you give my team a month, we would push it to the March meeting to give us a meaningful opportunity, because it's going to be a deep dive to get into, take a look at what we can tease out in terms of complete streets, if there are any potential savings on utility side. A week, sir, is not sufficient for us to come back with something for you that would be meaningful of your time to look at it.
Yeah, whatever time you need, Braxton. I thought I heard earlier that we had to move quickly for some reason. But if you need a month, that's fantastic.
Yes, so I guess would that be a motion to defer this to next month's meeting?
I will make that motion, Chair.
All right, motion to defer for 1 month by the Deputy Mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Hofer. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right. So we'll take that back up. Yes, yes,
Do
ma'am.
we
Go
want to
ahead.
give them a guidance on what we want them to look at? I know complete streets. Is there anything else, Neil, that you specifically want them to look at? Because I really don't see changing anything with the utilities. I just can't. If we're tearing up the street, it needs to be done and done right.
Well, I think from a value engineering standpoint, you look at everything and make sure that underground infrastructure, stormwater, water, wastewater, everything needs to be done, needs to be replaced. It's pretty easy when you go into these projects just to replace everything, and maybe there's portions of it that are still in good shape or in a location that doesn't make it catastrophic if they don't get replaced. So I think those things need to be looked at. And I'm sure the engineering staff and city staff and consultants will know where the big ticket items are and where there's a potential to save. So, but yeah.
Okay, I'll throw out one more. I know it's a safety issue, but can you look at the roundabout also? The roundabout versus leaving it as is, if there's any kind of a cost savings there.
Of course.
I take it you mean eliminate the roundabout, or?
I just want to know if there's any kind of cost savings. I know we have to rework it for the street itself. So do we save any by just sticking with the configuration we have? Or is it about a break even if we go to the roundabout
Councilwoman, are you talking at 17th and Oakley?
at 17th and Oakley?
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, if no other comments on that, the next, the next item is The Port Quincy utility relocation amendment, city manager.
Sylvia, Braxton, do you guys want to lead into it? I know we have guests here to talk to it.
Yep. So in your packet, you guys received a memo regarding a similar request for project budget amendment to address some overages on the utilities portion of the Polk Quincy project. Some questions that arose based on that memo have prompted us to give you a very brief project update overview, and then whatever questions you guys might have. We have staff here from the consulting design team and folks who have been working with KDOT very closely to help answer questions that you all might have. Really briefly, we'll talk about the overview of the project schedule, and then final cost update for you. The first 3 slides, you're not going to be able to see in much detail at all. We just wanted to include them so that you were getting a good bird's eye view of the scope of the work that is encompassed by this request. So you see some fun facts about the linear feet of water line we're replacing or relocating with this project. Next slide is stormwater, the different footage that we need to be moving and upgrading for the stormwater portion, plus a big concrete box that goes under the interstate, and then inlets and manholes associated with this effort. And finally, wastewater, you can see the variety of work based on those different colors. It's a bowl of spaghetti in this area that they're working with, and to try to get all of those out of the way, we are able to do some improvements that we need to do anyway. So it's a good opportunity to get in there, but there's a lot of conflict that has taken a lot of time to review and get through. So briefly, we've included the timeline project schedule. We recognize that this is a very tight time frame based on the work that KDOT needs to get done and what we have to do to be able to get those utilities out of the way so that they can keep on their master time frame for the viaduct and the surface streets surrounding the entire project. So very specifically, we are looking to get this out to bid and a very quick turnaround of about 30 days. I believe there's a little bit of wiggle room in there for responses, but we would like to get this awarded so that we can start getting as much of the coordination effort that the city needs to have ready to go, so we can try as hard as possible to meet these timeframes. More specifically, I wanted to note that with the plans that we're receiving, the final plans we received today, we will have a count for some of the long lead items that we've been looking at. And the plan is to start pre-procuring those so that we can get them on their way and hopefully reduce the wait time for some of those valves and fittings associated with the water line specifically. The ask today is, you see the original project budget that was approved is $22.5 million. The revisions based on final scope of work look to be $26.4 million. So we have about a almost $4 million budget request that we would like to ask that go in front of council for amendment to approve that. And then just as a reminder, our city match is $20 million, and this utility work will count towards that $20 million match. So I'm happy to stand for questions, and like I said, we do have other staff here to help with diving into those details.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Questions? Ms. Davis? Go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, city's match is 20 million. So where does the other 6.37 million come from?
Right now, this is all it's highlighted in your budget packet as well, but the plan is to use revenue bonds for the additional funds as well as the original request.
Okay.
It's Geo.
Councilman, the director's right, it is revenue bonds. However, it is our intention to fund those bonds or pay the debt on it from the general fund side of the house. The thought being here is this is a massive project that is being done because of a highway project. And so to put that onto the rate holders for utilities would not be fair. And so really the funding on this would come from the GO side of the house. But
Okay.
because it's part of our assets, we're required to go through revenue bonds.
Another question is this a project that goes one package, two packages? Is it bid all at once for one contractor to handle all of it?
Currently, the plan is for all the utility work to be bid as one project.
Okay. Massive project.
Yes.
City Manager, I heard you maybe allude to this at the end of your comments, but we have to use revenue bonds even if GO.
My understanding is, as we've done the analysis with this, because it's part of our overall assets for utilities, the need is to go with revenue bonds because you can't separate out, for example, this half of a block belongs to the GO side of the house and that half of the block belongs to our utility system because they all interconnect. Water's going to flow through all of it. And so for that reason, it goes revenue.
Okay, and of course, the bad part about that, they're not tax exempt, so the rate's higher.
Our
bonds.
interest rates are what, about 1 point higher? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Ms. Davis, I guess getting back to that, obviously this is an industry I kind of work in, and I guess I'm super concerned that this job is not constructible in the time. Matter of fact, I think it's a 2 or 3 year project. I mean, I don't even think it's close to, to say aggressive is to say that me running a 3-minute mile is aggressive. Not going to happen.
Yep.
But I guess what's driving why does this need to be done in that time frame?
Perhaps I can help out on that. City entered into an agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation that addresses the city's matching share. It also says that the city has to have its utilities relocated prior to the secretary letting this Polk Quincy Viaduct project to bid. Currently, the plan is in September of 2024 to let it for bid for an award in October and then starting the work in early 2025. And so to be able to meet that deadline, it would be a matter of the city completing its utility relocation in July of 2024. So that's the driver. And consultant for KDOT is here if I misspoke anything.
So I guess personal history here, that one of the reasons I originally ran for the open seat was at the time projects were getting what I call political timelines. This is back a couple city managers ago, and I had engineers calling me asking if I was going to bid on a certain project, and I said it can't be done. You got 6 months to do this project, 18 months, and the answer was just put liquidated. We know it can't be done. Put liquidated damages into your bid, and lo and behold, that project did take the 18 months. We did not bid on it. But I guess my point is, these jobs are linear in that, you can't, especially with grade work, it looks like a lot of this is wastewater and storm sewer. First of all, a lot of times you have to do the gravity first because it's deeper, so you can't put that in person. I don't know if it overlaps. It's hard to tell, sorry. I appreciate you getting these together, but it's hard to tell from your map where it is. But it looks like a lot of the water and wastewaters may be in the same area. I don't know, Mr. Shelfelman's kind of edging here, I don't know. But I guess my point is, even if you had 1,000 guys 20 or 30 crews you could put on this job. The problem is you have to start at point A and hook onto the source. You have to go short of point B, test, which takes about 7 days if the test passes on the first round, and that's becoming a rarity, it seems like, these last few years. And if not, it's another week. And you have to do that before you can hook on to B, and then, so on and so forth. And it just takes so long, and I guess I'm worried if trying to super compress this schedule, one, I don't know if anybody in Topeka that can bid this. And maybe there's a guy or two in Kansas City area that can bid it. But you're going to severely limit the competition for this. Number two, you're going to pay a premium for anybody to even attempt. Either they're going to bid liquidated damages into their bid, or they're just going to, I guess, be able to throw enough guys or put enough money in it they don't care. But I just don't think it can be done. Now, the caveat is I have not looked at the plans. This is the first time I've even seen the little sketch of this where it's at, but I don't think it can be done. And I guess it sounds like maybe this is too, I'm trying to think of better, I guess an arbitrary deadline that KDOT wants to bid a job at a certain date, and now everything has to be to meet that. Is that correct?
I don't know, arbitrary, I don't know.
Sorry,
I would use that
I'm
word,
not trying
but,
to, yeah.
Yeah, and again, today, we weren't really planning for a deep dive into
Sure.
the project, and we are certainly happy to come back to you with more details on that. It's truly the financing that we're here to talk or ask
Okay.
for today so that we can try our best to meet this. I don't know if Mr. Armstrong, I don't want to put him in a tight position here either, but, working with KDOT on what happens if it does push over, I just know that there's been a lot of discussions on that side of the house with, is this attainable or not? At this point, Braxton indicated and is right, we've agreed and we've committed to this long ago with the first discussions, with governing body about the total cost and what we would be looking at. So we're trying our best to meet what we've agreed to previously.
Okay. I guess absent a deadline from KDOT, is there an estimate of the reasonable amount of time this project should take?
Chair.
Yes, sir.
With Mr. Armstrong in the audience, I think he's prepared to answer those specific questions.
Mr. Armstrong, would you like to come to the, I noticed your colleagues there were quick to let you come up here.
So I guess I can speak to the KDOT timeline a little, and if you're specifically the duration of the utility project, that's probably more Andy Wright and Corey Schaufelman. On the design side, I've been out of the utility project as the manager of the design project for KDOT. When the larger Polk Quincy project was added to the construction pipeline, which meant KDOT fully funded construction right away as a part of the bigger project. At that point in time, they set the letting date of October 2024, and that's been the timeline that we've been working towards. As a part of that, for both public and private utilities, that they've given that end of July 2024 as a target date to get utilities relocated, so that message to contractors is they have a clean and open workspace as they bid the larger Polk Quincy project. There haven't been discussions to date as to any other scenarios other than the city's utility project being targeted to be done in that time frame.
Thank you for that, Mr. Armstrong. What happens if, say we go forward, you have one contract, someone bids it, and what happens if it's not done?
I can't answer that. That would be a question for KDOT.
Okay. I don't want to put your colleagues on the spot, but if they've kind of have some estimates on anything you guys want to add on that, schedule-wise, or? Yes, Mr. Wright, welcome to the.
Yeah, I guess the question being how long it would take if we didn't have a KDOT deadline, is that?
Yes, sir. Yes. I take it the construction, the timeline you have here, usually your timelines, I feel like, maybe I should never admit to this as a contractor, but are actually about right. I feel like this is a departure from that, honestly.
I'm glad they're videotaping this. So
Yeah, I know. I'll never live that down.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm not going to answer that directly, but I don't think we would have structured the project like this if we didn't have that deadline. So, I mean, I would agree with you that we're trying to meet a deadline, you know, and this is the best way that we could come up with to give us a shot. You know, there's 9 separate sanitary sewer projects, really. None of them are bigger than 1.5 million. The storm's 3 million. The water line's 3.4. So it really is a bunch of little projects kind of all pulled together into one to try and meet that deadline. So I think the answer to your question is we probably would have split it out into several projects if we didn't have a deadline to meet.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any questions from my colleagues on that? Okay, thank you. Yeah. No, you did a good job of walking that tightrope there. Golly, yeah.
I know it's a lot because I have experience with a project that was in this area, and instead of going down, I believe 17 foot, we had to go down 20 or 21 foot to get clearances. And it was totally unknown when we started the project, and it ran longer than any of us would like to have gone. But we had a hole in our street in front of my business that was 30 foot long and it was almost half the street, so at least 15 foot wide and 21 foot deep. That's a hell of a hole. And we kept finding abandoned lines that no one knew about. And so I know that's going to continue to happen because this is an old part of town. But I'm just wondering if it isn't, I know it's probably good to have them all under one contract. I know it needs to be done by a certain date, but I also know that they're phasing Polk Quincy. And they're doing the portion just off between First and Second Street first. And I see one of these on the stormwater that is way east of that. I know we're gonna have to spend the money, it's required, but I guess I'm thinking it's gonna need to be looked at strongly about how we structure it.
To help ease your mind just a little bit, I know it's never going to be foolproof, but there has been extensive work in this area on an inspection. Because we have some combined sewer in this space, the utilities have had a lot of work done to map these systems out, video inspect them. So we do have a really good feeling about what we're looking at. Of course, things can change and pop up when you start digging, but there's been a lot of work preemptively done that has been taken into consideration with these plans. And then I think originally we anticipated a lot of conflicts between water and then sanitary and storm. Looking back through that, while there is some, it's going to be more staging and implementation of when this begins and when this ends, as opposed to direct conflicts. For the most part, they're separate enough where they shouldn't be too conflictual. Again, all that is just to help give you a little peace of mind. It's not going to say that we are sure we're going to meet that timeline, but I think we're obligated to attempt at our very best to meet it. And then if we do see a bind coming, we can start having those discussions with the secretary and see if there's some leeway with extending.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I appreciate all the discussion and all very relevant. Clearly a lot of unknowns here. But regardless of, how this is phased, what the timing is, all those sorts of things, what's in front of us today, I think is the financial piece of it, just being able to obligate the city to spend the money, which we have to do. So my suggestion maybe is go ahead and get this CIP amendment approved, and then, maybe follow up on some of these questions outside of this venue might be appropriate.
I agree, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, obviously it's more than I'd like to spend on that, but it's not doubling it or tripling it. I would make a motion then to accept the increased funding recommendation, with the caveat that perhaps we get with KDOT and see if there's some way to segment it. And so that'd be my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved to seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that passes 3-0. Thank you. Thanks everyone for your discussion on that. And in 1 second, I'll have my agenda back. Okay, the next item is number 5, the 2023 preliminary mill and overlay projects. City Manager?
Braxton, I think you've got that list.
Yeah. So the next item on the agenda comes from a conversation that the city manager and I had a couple of months ago, and that was challenging me to make an impact this summer in terms of our half-cent sales tax and our pavement projects. And so after discussions with staff, we came up with a list of potential projects just shy of $5 million to try to move the needle in terms of improving pavement throughout the city. We looked citywide, trying to touch every city council district. We also looked at our most impactful projects are ones where we come in and do a mill and overlay with the least amount of engineering to maximize our dollar amount. And then we tried to target PCIs between the 45 and 65, where we're going to have still be able to come in, mill overlay, get a new street surface, but have the road base be sound enough that we only have to do mill and overlay with limited full depth patching. So that's the proposed list, which is in your council packet. We also have prepared a corresponding map showing the locations of those mill and overlay projects. And so this would be an amendment to the existing 2023 CIP, identifying the additional projects. The resolution and the list of projects is before you. My request would be that you approve the amendment to allow us to attack these additional projects. Our goal is, and it's a lofty goal, to get it done this year, given the fact that we have one asphalt manufacturer in town. That's going to make it a challenge. And then also, we have a limited number of contractors that can do this work. But we're going to try. But I would be remiss to tell you, or I certainly would not guarantee that we will get this all done by Thanksgiving of this year. But we will do everything that we can to make a difference and improve the overall PCI in the city and make an impact on our neighborhoods.
Chair, for those at home, we're talking about 21 different projects and more than 24 lane miles with this request.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions from committee?
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, first of all, I applaud the effort to get more money on the street, as it were. Definite need out there. So I applaud the direction from the city manager as well as the response from city staff. Well done. And when appropriate, I will make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I did have a question. I see this says additional 5 million mill and overlay projects. One of the things that I experience, and I think a lot of people experience in my district and as well as all of Topeka, is Topeka Boulevard and 29th Streets. I know, I don't think I see 29th on here, but is that already being done this year, and like the base work?
So if memory serves, the design right now is for 21st to 29th. So 21st to 29th, we're negotiating the contract to get the consultant on board. So that first section will be Topeka Boulevard, 21st to 29th. That will involve full depth reconstruction of 21st and Topeka, which will allow us to put a water line through that intersection as part of that open cut, which will reduce the cost of to the utilities of that water line. And then it's mill and overlay with full depth patching from 21st to 29th. And so that will be in 2024. Will be construction of that project.
Okay, what about 29th Street? I thought I saw something, and maybe that's in the, I guess that's 2024. Is 29th, it looks like from California to Adams Street.
Correct. That's part of the next item.
Okay. Is there anything slated for 29th from Topeka Boulevard, like to west to Washburn? It's down that hill, it's about a,
Not that I can think of.
Sorry, there's nothing on 29th Street.
okay, I don't know if anyone's driven that lately, but it's really bad, and it's probably one of our maybe one of our busiest streets. I mean, I'd be in favor of just doing a 2-inch mill and overlay right now. I don't know. Guess you can figure out what that would cost, but just something simple to buy you 3 or 4 years, because it can't wait. It can't wait for a reconstruction, I don't think.
We can certainly take a look, and that was from Topeka Boulevard going west.
Yes, sir. West to Washburn.
Okay, we can certainly
Okay.
take a look at that. And
Yeah, I mean, I know you got your plates full, and I appreciate that.
yes, sir.
I can't see. Go
I
ahead.
got a couple quick questions. This is more
Couple.
about the actual work. How is this bid? Is it bid as a total project, one company? Since we mainly have one, but
So our plan would be to break this up into 5 or 6 different chunks and have each one of those designed. Ideally, I can do the chunk small enough that my design is under 50,000, so I don't have to go through and do a full-blown RFP, taking me 60 to 90 days to get consultants on board to actually start laying out the work. So that is the hope, is to break it into manageable chunks that I can get designed quickly, get it on the street, get it out to bid, and bid it in those chunks, as it were. Say 5 to 6 different subgroups of projects, so that they are geographically oriented, so that I don't have this contractor running from here all the way across town to mill this section and then overlay that section.
okay. And then I'll take the project, that I know the best on Farallon. It's just over half a mile. How long does something like that take? Is that something they do in a week? I'm just trying to familiarize myself so I know what I'm dealing with.
I would truly just be giving you a complete wag to tell you what the time frame was for the mill and overlay. I would welcome the opportunity to sit down and have the conversation with you after we get it designed and we get a contractor on board, to be able to have a real conversation in terms of what the contractor thinks that he can do in terms of how he wants to stage it. And of course, it would all be prefaced on the fact that we don't need to do huge amounts of full depth reconstruction, right? That we can get by just doing a mill and then overlaying it.
Okay. I guess Neil's ready for a motion.
Deputy Mayor, do you need a motion here, or this just information.
Sir, no, we need a motion because we need to get the resolution amending the CIP in front of the governing body in April so that we comply with the current resolution requiring all half-cent sales tax projects to be approved. And then we are increasing by almost $5 million what was approved as part of the 2023 CIP.
I have one slight question. What happens if they cannot get it all done this year? Does the money and the project go into 2024?
We would overwinter the projects and then would only be paid, contractors only paid after submitting a pay app for the work actually completed.
Okay. Okay, then,
Chair, I'll go ahead and make that motion now to approve.
okay, then I will second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved to approve. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Did you already second? Okay.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Copley.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
Chair, unfortunately, I need to move on to another meeting, so I will be leaving in probably about 2 minutes here.
No problem. No problem. Thank you appreciate your time, Deputy Mayor. The next amendment then, let's get into this quickly then, is amendment of the 2023 half-cent sales tax and ARPA projects.
Sir, we just did that one. The next one's the 2024. And being respectful of the deputy mayor's time, in 30 seconds, I can lay this one out.
Please do.
As part of the adoption a few years ago of the CIP, we're required to bring all of our half-cent sales tax projects, as well as a couple other projects, to the governing body for their specific approval. As an attachment to the resolution is a list of the 2024 half-cent sales tax projects that we have, including High Crest, River Road, the Southeast 29th Street project that we just talked about, and a smattering of other projects. I would respectfully request approval so that we can move forward with design of these projects. They're all intended to be constructed in 2024.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Copley? So this is just voting on the project. This is not a change to the funding level or anything, correct? It's
No,
just-
sir, this is just approving the projects that we have tentatively selected for 2024. There is a resolution as part of the packet. I'd respectfully ask for your approval of this and recommendation to the governing body to approve the resolution selecting the 2024 projects.
Okay.
Is this both okay, this is the amendment for the 2023 or the 2024 projects?
So this is the next item we did. Mr. Copley skipped one item to get to this. This is the 2024 Public Works, correct? Infill sidewalks facilities citywide?
Correct. The 5 and 6 are the same item, and those were done,
Okay.
Okay.
we just took care of that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
5 and 6 are the same
So
item.
this is number 7. This is actually item number 7.
Correct.
Okay, then I will move to approve.
And I will second that. Any other discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Copley. Okay, and I'm not trying to kick this can down. Richard, could we possibly, I guess I would maybe look at, can we push the floodplain ordinance to the next meeting? Is there any urgency there that we need to? Sure, go ahead, Mr. Wade. So that got postponed.
And he's gone.
Chair, we're fine. I was worried about a deadline with the feds, but I think we're okay.
Okay. Feds are easy.
Yeah.
Very flexible. Okay, well, in that case, Mr. Faulkner, I appreciate you being here and your work on this, but we will push that to the next meeting. Other items? Else? All right, looks like no other items. Our next meeting is set for Thursday, March 30th, 11 a.m., same place here. So seeing nothing else before us, this meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone.